So I went through my deconstruction and now I'm back 5 years later and here to give you some of the scoop on how it's going 5 years into the process. The deconstruction from a high-demand fundamentalist group is, of course, always really intense. I documented some of the end of my deconstruction on TikTok a while ago, and you'll find huge compilations of my videos because I just wanted to store those after I left TikTok. You'll find those here on this channel. But now, 5 years after the proverbial shelf breaking and realizing the church wasn't true and that I'd been lied to, and all of that later, this is life now, and it's really great. I actually left post-Mormonism, like the arena of post-Mormonism, for a few years just to get my bearings on what life is about now and what I'm interested in and what my relationship with my husband should look like now and what my parenting style is. And so that's been a process. Here in my self-welcoming back, I am welcoming myself back. In my self-welcoming back to the post-Mormon space, I thought I would do a fun little experiment on countenance checking. Because your countenance in Mormonism is like kind of your face, but it's also more than your face. It's like supposed to be the glow of your face. It's supposed to be evidence of how spiritual or how Jesus-like you are. And in like contemplating and testing, like I went back and collected a little handful of some 2018 and 2019 pictures of myself, which would be before my deconstruction, and then compared them to pictures from the last 6 months. And these are kind of equidistant from my intensive 3 years of active deconstruction. These two sets of pictures showed me pretty clearly a countenance change. But it wasn't the countenance change that I was supposed to expect as a Mormon, nor was it the countenance change that I was told other members or contacts were perceiving in me during my deconstruction years. These two sets of pictures are pretty emblematic of how my countenance has changed, and I would argue that it has been upgraded. And to help myself do this, I created a little scoring chart to determine my glow, to evaluate my glow, to try and make it a little bit less totally subjective. Of course, it's all totally subjective because I'm the one picking the photos and I'm the one judging them. But I tried to pick a sampling of photos that would have been taken in equivalent states. And to evaluate these, I made a little countenance counter to evaluate the expressiveness from 1 to 5. All of these are from 1 to 5. The ease I see in my face, the balance I see in my face, the light in the eyes, and the approachability. I feel like those are pretty solid measures of what a Mormon means when they say that they are perceiving something in your countenance or perceiving a change in your countenance. It's not quantified, of course, within Mormonism, but I feel like that breaks it up into some categories that will help us like approach the countenance question in like a slightly more objective way. So for my pre-deconstruction pictures, you can see that like I'm smiling, I'm happy, I still have long hair, but that there's also something a little forced about my expressions in these pictures, and also weirdly the same. Like if you look at my smiles in all of these, like this is kind of the smile, this is my 2018 to 2019 smile. Like basically all of my pictures kind of look like this. Unless they were like a truly total candid and were catching me off guards at some moments. But I see in my face in these pictures, there's a kind of like there are shadows under my eyes. I had 2 toddlers and 1 on the way, which was obviously making me tired, but you know, I'm tired now. And tiredness isn't really supposed to be like a factor in your countenance anyway. So I'm just gonna call it like I look burdened. Like tired, I look burdened. I look like I'm carrying something, like more than just the pregnancy, right? Because I'm pregnant, actively pregnant in at least 2 of these pictures that you can tell. And that's literally, I was literally heavier, but I'm talking about spiritually. It looks like I'm carrying something in the background. I also think that the clothes look a little bit off. They like none of these clothes feel like they totally are expressing with me, so I'm not comfortable with who I am. The smiles look more forced, especially in this Christmas picture. You can see like this I would call it a snarl smile, where you're kind of like using your facial muscles to drag your face upwards into a smile. And it can look really good on some people, but I feel like that's a sign of like, it's not a purely emergent smile. It's not a pure expression of joy. It is a forced mask of happiness or of excitement. Then in the family search pictures, you can see that like, well, maybe you can't see, I don't know if it's close enough, but if you zoom in on like my face in these family search pictures, I look a little crazed. I just look a little weird, and it also looks kind of forced. And then there's like an overall dullness to my countenance or my skin and hair. Like it all looks kind of like just blah. It's not like horrible, but it's not, but it doesn't feel like a glow to me. The professional picture here is obviously the best, but still, I'm going to score this. I'm going to give these pictures a 2 for expressiveness. I'm going to give it a 1 for ease, because I don't look at ease in these pictures. I also think balance, like, I think a generous interpretation would be 3. So since I'm maybe rounding down on ease, I'll round up for balance and say it's a 3. In terms of the light in my eyes, I would say it's like, it doesn't look good. Maybe a 1 or a 2. And then approachability, I think probably a 3. I think that normal people are generally pretty approachable. Women are generally pretty approachable. So I'd say that's a solid 3. And if we add that up, that is 11. So that's my glow total for my pre-deconstruction persona, my fully Mormon persona. And let's see how this compares to post-Mormon self. Let me pull these pictures up here. Okay, and these are all from 2025. Again, these are all within the last 6 months. And you can tell already, just from a glance, I look more relaxed. And I have more expressions. There's more variance in how I'm expressing. And I'd say I look healthier, brighter, more comfortable. My clothes are also more different from each other than they were before. And they all look like they are okay on me. I don't look super uncomfortable in any of them. I'm still tired because I know what's been happening the last 6 months. A lot of these were in different places, and I still have 3 kids, so I'm still tired, but it feels like it's showing up less in my face. It's less distracting, that there's like a burden that is lifted from these pictures compared to the ones from earlier. So if I count this up using my arbitrary countenance counter, I would give these pictures a 4 for expressiveness, at least. They're not like radically different expressions, but there's like a variety. There's a variety of what feels like spontaneous expressions of joy in these pictures. So I'd say that's at least a 4, if not a 5. For ease, I'd say 5. It looks like, even though I'm tired in some of these pictures, they just look comfortable. They look at ease. For balance, I would say at least a 4, maybe a 5 in some of them. So 4 or 5. And in terms of the light in my eyes, I feel like that's a 5 too, because they're like, even when I'm backlit, like in this picture where I'm getting my tattoo, it's like sparkly. There's a little glow to the eyes. So I'm going to say that's 5. Then approachability, I'd say that one's like pretty close to what it was before, and probably depends on who you are. So like maybe a 4 instead of a 3, because I look a little bit more at ease and more balanced. But I also have tattoos, which would probably make it so that some Mormons would not want to approach me. So I'd say like, let's average it out to a 4. And that would put my glow total as about like 19 if I round down, and 21. if I round up. And like, let's be honest, there are tons of problems with doing this test at all, ever, because it doesn't really account for things like mental health. It's very subjective. It depends on where a person is and what's happening around them and what the lighting is on them and who's taking the picture and how comfortable the person is with the person that they're speaking to. Anyway, the point is, it's very arbitrary. So the countenance counter is like, I'm doing this for fun, but that, like, if you end up doing it and don't have a similar result, you should not feel bad. People's countenance or their expression, their expressiveness, their ease with what's going on is going to change radically regardless of whether they are conforming to Mormon belief standards or not. However, I thought this was still a valuable thing to do, since this was something that I was told as I was leaving the church. It was like a way of the members trying to encourage me to doubt myself, to doubt the experience that I was having through my deconstruction, and a way for them to try and push me back into conformity with the church. And there was no way for me to see forward, see ahead into the pictures or the experiences I would have after the deconstruction, into like the type of life I am leading now. I just had to trust that the experience I was having was valuable, did mean something, and that I should keep, taking one step at a time into the mystery, into the unknown of what life would look like after leaving a high demand religion, because I could tell that it was not true, that they were lying to me. And that was a scary process. And I couldn't do this kind of comparison at that time when I was still in that very intense chapter of leaving. But I can now. And I feel like when I do look at these pictures side by side, when I see the fact that in my photo library from 2018 to 2019, I took no selfies. I take no selfies of myself in 2018 to 2019 because I remember getting out my camera and trying to take selfies and just not liking how I looked. I never felt comfortable in the camera. And it shows that I felt awkward, and it felt like I didn't feel like I recognized myself from the lens of the camera. And now, after all of these changes that we've been through, there has been some indescribable shift in my countenance, to the point that I can take out a phone and take a picture of myself on any random day to document what we're doing, to document where we are, to document who I'm with, to just keep track of my life. And I enjoy my life more, and that makes it more enjoyable to keep track of it. And I also enjoy how I look now, which is really nice. That's pretty refreshing. That was something I never had in Mormonism, and that is something I have gleaned through leaving this high demand group and reclaiming the parts of myself that had been overshadowed or shut up by my cult persona. So thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.